All right, Les, thank you for being here. This is so exciting and really kind of unexpected because this all came together pretty quickly recently. But thank you for being here. Uh,
Sure. It's definitely enjoyable to be here, and I'm excited.
yeah. So we've known each other for quite some years now, and I think that we have a really great story to share about so many things. But I'd like to kind of set the stage first and talk about how our relationship, knowing each other, and the work that you do have crossed paths numerous times with gravity reset, with spinal decompression, with your device, the Z-Tek device that you created, you invented. And so we're going to kind of touch on all those topics. But first, I want to just talk about something that happened just this past weekend where you and I were both at a conference and you with your device, and we'll absolutely talk about it because I think it's an amazing device that you've created. But I'd like to just quickly share what happened when we did a gravity reset method on you this past weekend because it was pretty profound. And I was there with my booth, you were there with your booth at a chiropractic conference, and I think the best way that I can explain what the gravity reset method is, how profound it is, how impactful it can be on somebody, is to actually test someone and actually do the maneuver on them so they can experience it. And that's what I was doing all weekend at a recent conference with all sorts of chiropractors that had various conditions from concussions to hip pain, leg pain, and then you were using your device, which is great for turning pain down. You were using that on your foot for plantar fasciitis, and I happen to think about the fact that in my office, when we see plantar fasciitis, my first thought is they need a gravity reset because a lot of times that wind up of muscle tension builds up because the vestibular system is miscalibrated because of your relation to gravity being off. I have personally experienced the benefit of that, where I had hip pain and I did the reset on myself and my hip pain went away after having it for so long. But I'd love to hear about what it was like for you this weekend, what you noticed, and then let's talk about the Z-Tek.
Well, it was really interesting because I've been dealing with a problem with my right foot and my right leg for quite some time, getting acclimated to walking a certain way and having a little bit of a drag in the right leg and not really thinking about it. And then realizing it that after a while, the compensating started causing some problems with my right hip. Not a lot of problems, but just to the point where I couldn't really stand straight comfortably and feel grounded. I would always have to kind of have like a slight lean or just kind of change my stance a little bit just to kind of feel comfortable. And after the gravity reset, it's hard to explain, but it's just standing straight. It just feels comfortable just standing straight. It feels smooth and just not really having to think about it as much as I was before. And before, when I was walking, I almost felt like I was kind of taking a right turn always and dragging that foot. And a lot of that was because of the pain in the heel on my right foot. And I had been also dealing with some anxiety issues just from work, just pushing it a lot and focusing problems. And after the gravity reset, I just felt more relaxed and able to focus more, and just my mind just didn't seem to be racing a million miles an hour. After the reset, it just really relaxed my brain, and I also noticed that my sleep, I just felt more comfortable and more relaxed in my mind that night, and all week long, I just feel more relaxed. My brain seems to just want to sit back and just think and just relax and not be in such a rush. So it definitely, without a doubt, made a very, very big difference.
So we did one maneuver one time this weekend, and that's all we did. And I did that like at a conference without all the equipment and what I use in my office, and it was that profound. You touched on a number of things right there that I think are really important. I mentioned hip pain, you mentioned leg pain, we talked about plantar fasciitis, and then you touched on anxiety. And so what I'm finding more and more is that when we do a gravity reset, we have far-reaching potential in patients, because the vestibular system, when it's wound up, it winds up the fight or flight sympathetic system, that stress response, that anxiety response. Now, when it comes to anxiety, sometimes we'll do it one time just right for that person and the anxiety goes away. For other people, it doesn't. We'll do it 2 or 3 times and we feel like, we're sort of kind of touching on it, but not all the way going away. I made a modification to our method, and you got to actually get a version of that where we're doing gravity reset laying down. We're doing a translational movement to recalibrate that tonic discharge between the semicircular canals of the vestibular system. And those technicalities don't really matter in terms of our conversation, but we're resetting that resting tone between receptors that are paired together. And the key to do that is for the head to be immobile and to translate, to move in gravity. And I say immobile in terms of angular movement, but we actually translate the whole body while you're laying down in a very purposeful plane to recalibrate those paired receptors. And then we do it upright. And that change has changed gravity reset. It's kind of like it's put it on steroids. We're getting crazy results since we're doing it off vertical, so laying down in a very specific position, and in vertical, when you're sitting or standing. And at the conference where we were doing it standing. But the point that I want to make is that anxiety is such a big condition and is such a problem for so many people. Sometimes we'll do the maneuver one time, like I did with another patient this morning who came back and she goes, she slept well, her anxiety was gone. Like she didn't need 20 repetitions. But for other cases, other people, we need to do the maneuver 2 or 3 times a day for a week or 2 weeks straight, like 10 sessions in a week, or 15 sessions in a week, or 20 sessions in 2 weeks, like where it's really intensive. Like we need to do that much to really make a change. In the past, if I didn't see a change in 2 or 3 visits in a patient, I would tell them, I'm sorry, I don't think this is going to work for you. And I was wrong, because what I'm realizing now is that we were missing a piece. And for some people, with that piece in place, it's just a matter of doing the right amount of repetition for long enough. And we're not talking months and months of therapy. We're just talking about days and weeks, if it's intensive enough. So thank you for touching on the anxiety part, because it's one of those things that is far-reaching for so many people. Now, we met a long time ago, and back when we met, I was promoting a home decompression system that I created, and it just came out recently, but back then we had different versions of it over the years. And you had mentioned something to me that honestly, clinically has been so valuable. It's made a big difference for a lot of people. And you said, if we use the device that you made, the Z-Tek, with decompression at the same time, if you have any soreness while you're decompressing, it takes it away, like it removes it. And, at the time when you were mentioning that to me, my first thought was, well, I'm not a big fan of electrical devices because, what I had used anyway was really mediocre in terms of the quality of the devices. I didn't like that prickly sensation on the back. And then you said, well, you got to try mine. And I tried yours, and it felt incredibly smooth. And all patients that use it have the same report. They absolutely love it. And can you take the time to explain, what makes the Z-Tek device different, and why is it so much better than a TENS unit or another kind of muscle stim device?
Well, the Z-Tek device is totally analog, and it does not have any truncation issues. That is a real problem with digital electronics because of ADD conversion. And the ADD conversion with the digital units, it kind of messes with the waveform when it converts from the digital analog signal, the final output of the device. And the way that I've proved that, I would go into a doctor's clinic and let them A and B my device compared to their best equipment. And most of the time, the doc will say, well, look, why do I need this device? I've got all this other equipment. I said, well, let's do an A and B comparison on the median nerve. When I do that A and B comparison, most of the time the doc looks at me like, that's just incredible. That's like nothing that I've ever tried. Well, it's just a very comfortable waveform, very natural, and the brain picks up on it as being, it's very accommodating. Where have you been? And with this particular device, because of that, you can get a lot of current with less pain compared to other devices. Many other devices with just a square wave biphasic waveform are very, very uncomfortable by the time they get to the current that they need. And with the Z-Tek device, you can actually get more current with less pain compared to many other devices.
I love that you explain it just that way. So that makes a lot of sense. And for people who don't, or not maybe in the medical field, bottom line is that you need to reach a certain intensity, to get the benefit that you need. And with a lot of the devices that are on the market, to reach that intensity, it's very uncomfortable. So you have to bring it back down. But in your device, the Z-Tek device, which I've used for many years, I actually have some patients that purchase it as well and use it at home. You can go at a higher intensity without that discomfort. So is that essentially what you're saying?
Yes, basically. The rule of thumb with electrical stimulation, you can read studies about it all day long, but until you try it, you really don't know. And my percentage on positive outcome with Z-Tek is pretty substantial. Many doctors that are skeptical in the past, I said, well, try the device. That's the ultimate way. Basically, electrical stimulation is subjective, and you really don't know until you try it. And I know that for the many years that I have been manufacturing this device, doctors get positive results most of the time.
So the thing with tools that I often get pushback with doctors, 'cause I mentor and I speak with doctors all the time, and I create products and promote various things that I think can be truly life-altering for patients, because pain is life-altering. When someone is suffering, they only have one dream, right? And that's for that suffering to go away. And one big thing that I like to recommend and to put on the radar of clinicians out there is, when I learned chiropractic, we were very spine-focused, meaning we learned it in a way that it's chiropractic for everything, and we shouldn't mix different modalities, different approaches. And, I didn't know at the time when I was learning, I thought that it would be amazing if that actually worked that way, that all you need to do is work on the spine and then everything else gets better. And sometimes it does, but it's not like that all the time. And that's just reality. So the device that you've created is an amazing tool, and it's all a matter of how we use these tools. And one of the things that I think makes it amazing is that you could actually move around with it. And so movement, whether it be movement of an extremity that's painful, if you're moving it in the painful range, but then you have the Z-Tek on to help desensitize the pain during that, then your brain is no longer association the pain, with that movement. And so pain is, even though we feel pain in our body, pain is actually experienced and manifested in the brain. And so we want to break that association as long as the injury is no longer there. But a lot of times the pain remains. And so the Z-Tek is great at breaking that loop. Since I'm a big fan of movement and moving in gravity, not moving stationary, but moving in the environment. And that's the big difference there. I love that with the Z-Tek, you can apply it where the pain is and you can move with it. And I think that is critical. Now, there's other devices that I really love, and I'm a huge proponent of. I love PMF, pulse magnetic therapy, pulse electromagnetic field. But it does have its own limitations. Like everything has its limitations. It's a little harder to walk around and go to a store and go up the stairs with a big machine.
Right.
When it comes to pain, I think that that's a great advantage there is to have those tools. So I think all the tools are great. It's a matter of, how do we piece and how do we use these tools? And I just wanted to touch on that, the motion component. You were talking about how since doing the gravity reset method, you've noticed a difference in how you're responding to certain foods. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I realized Monday, usually I eat an apple every day. I had a Honeycrisp apple and I bit into it. It's like, man, the sugar content, it just seemed to be just too much sugar. And just everything basically with sugar, it just seems to be very overwhelming. It's really interesting. It's like too sweet. So I'm going to have to shift over to the green apple. It has less sugar content. And after that reset, I've noticed that sugar, it's just, I'm more sensitive to the taste of it. Everything, things with sugar, and it's just like, it's almost too much sugar. And I guess that's a good thing in many ways, because I should be low sweets, low fried foods. So it definitely, without a doubt, had a major, major effect on me as far as the taste. I haven't noticed too much in the sense of smell, but definitely I've noticed that with mainly just sugar.
Yeah, so, it's incredible the change that we notice with gravity reset. It's not just for vestibular disorders, for dizziness, for vertigo, for concussion rehab or movement disorders and developmental disorders and all those things. It's for everybody. And so what I've found, because I see a lot of patients that come in for wellness, they've been seeing me for decades. I've been in practice 23 years, and I have patients that I'm still seeing today that I saw 23 years ago, and they're still in my practice. And they've seen me evolve dramatically over time. But gravity reset is for everybody. And the reason why it might have an impact on the digestive system, on other functions that are really stemming right out of the brainstem, is because when we do gravity reset, we are affecting, at the very core of the brain, we are resetting systems that are that originate out of the brainstem and that are modulated by midline regions of the brain, the cerebellum. And our entire human experience is built around these systems. And so when we do gravity reset in a very effective, positive way, as you might need it, it has an impact on your autonomic system. And we see that through and through. We see many patients here that have dysautonomias. And it used to take forever to create changes in those patients. And with gravity reset, it has allowed us to see change a lot faster than we thought was possible. It's incredible. But yeah, it's far-reaching because it has an impact on the muscular system. We'll see changes in muscle tones. And that's why, in your case, you had this problem with your right leg, the plantar fasciitis. I recently had issues with my left hip, thinking that, I actually broke my foot almost a year ago, and I thought that was related to that, but it turns out that after all this therapy that I've done on my hip, all I needed to do was gravity reset, because just about maybe 2 weeks ago, I realized I haven't done the gravity reset on myself in a super long time. And so I decided, and especially with the new applications that we're doing now, off vertical and vertical translation. So I did it, and my hip pain went away like that, like on the spot. And it's been better ever since. And I seriously was worried, because I was thinking that I was heading towards a path of potentially having degenerative hip. I'm 46, it's possible at this point in time. But I made those changes, and what a difference it made. Posture and balance. My left side has always been a little bit harder for me to balance on. My balance has been so great on that leg. My gait and everything feels better. It's unlocking. But yeah, it's far-reaching. It actually is as far-reaching as every function of the human body. Because when you have an imbalance in how you relate to gravity and how your motion sensors respond to gravity, it will impact vision, eye alignment, it'll impact energy levels, it'll impact the autonomic system, therefore your ability to sleep restfully and be refreshed when you wake up. You talked about anxiety earlier. It'll affect your body temperature, your energy expenditure, your posture, your movements, your mind, your stability, your balance. And balance is a big one. I mean, I see so many people that are here because of balance concerns. And even last weekend when we were together, there was this one person who had a concussion who had a life-changing result in one session. And then her husband came in, the next day. She just said, "You just got to go. You got to try this." And his balance was horrendous. But by the time we were done in that one session, you were there. You saw it was locked in.
It was.
He couldn't even stand on that balance pad. And by the time we were done, he was so sturdy. So we have found something incredible. It is incredible. And then when we combine it with all the other tools that we have, whether it be, and for me, I talk about spinal decompression a lot because it was life-changing for me. I had low back pain for so long, but if we take someone who's got low back pain and we do a gravity reset, we use the Z-Tek device to desensitize pain, or we use other things like vibration or laser therapy. But especially if you can wear either vibration or we can wear a stim device that takes pain down like the Z-Tek device, it's even more effective. But decompression combined with all those things for me has changed my life. And what has made a big difference is that combination allowed me to do things that I thought I wouldn't be doing 10 years ago, but I'm still doing them today. And so, and the reason why I push so hard for home decompression is if you've got degenerative change in your spine, like I have had in my lower back, it's one thing to get to the point of there's no more pain, but it's another thing to push it beyond that and get to a point where we are promoting change in better structural function long term. And you need a lot of decompression over a long stretch of time when you've had some degenerative changes in order to create that. So thank you for your contribution.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you for spending the time here, Les. And we'll make sure to put a link on the video so that way we can show people where they can get the Z-Tek device, which you created. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Definitely.